This is our first lecture in the series on Chapter 13, and we're going to talk today about energy conservation and sustainable design. So first of all, let's discuss conservation versus efficiency. Now, energy conservation typically means reducing our energy usage. This could be through a variety of ways. We could do this, for example, by unplugging appliances when they're not being used. That means we're going to reduce that draw. It's called phantom power. We'll reduce the use of phantom power, which is the amount of power that an appliance draws when it's turned off, which, that little red light on the front of your TV has to get electricity from somewhere. So that's one way of doing energy conservation. There are a lot of different ways which we're going to talk about. Now, a subset of that is energy efficiency. Energy efficiency refers to doing the same job but using less energy to do it. So it's not like we're deciding not to drive the car to the grocery store that day. It's like we're going to drive a more efficient car to the grocery store. So we're still doing the same job, but we're using less energy. So another example of this would be switching to light bulbs that are equally bright but use less energy. That would mean like maybe changing out your compact fluorescent light bulb for an LED, or changing that old incandescent bulb to compact fluorescent or something like that. So the difference here is that with energy efficiency, we are still going to be doing the same things, the same tasks as we were before, but we're just doing it with something that's going to use less energy. So doing the same job but using less energy is an example of A, energy conservation, or B, energy efficiency. Go ahead and take a moment, choose your answer. If you haven't chosen it already, you should pause the recording. And the correct answer is energy efficiency, doing the same job but using less energy to do it. And that's one of the main places where people are looking at improving the efficiency of the things that we have so that we can. So it's not like we have to say, oh, you're only allowed to use your computer 2 hours a day. It's like, no, go ahead and use your computer as much as you need to, but let's get you a more efficient computer. So in theory, we'd be able to reduce our overall energy use. So let's look at some other ways of conserving energy and improving efficiency. So in the home, and these are all things that are found in your textbook. I just wanted to explain them a little bit in case there was any confusion. So in your home, you can do what's called weatherizing, which means that you improve the insulation, seal the cracks around your windows and doors. And this will help ensure that any heating that you do in your home in winter, the hot air stays inside your house. And in the summer, any air conditioning you do, the cold air stays inside your house. So whenever you have air leaking out of your house, then you've got a potential problem there with trying to heat the house or cool the house more than you really need to. Now, you can also do things like adjusting your thermostat. So if you turn your thermostat down in the winter and turn it up in the summer, it means that the winters are going to be a little bit colder inside your house, maybe 68 degrees instead of 70, or maybe 67 instead of 70. And then in the summer, if you turn your thermostat up and you're willing to tolerate temperatures as high as like 75 or 80 in your house in the summer, it means that you're going to be running your air conditioner and your heater less, which will save you money and energy. We can also reduce the use of hot water because it takes a lot of energy to boil water, to heat water up. So if we run our laundry in warm water or cold water, or we take shorter showers, those are both going to reduce the use of hot water. And then finally, one I mentioned already, replacing our incandescent light bulbs with compact fluorescents or LEDs. Those are all things that people can do right around their home to improve their energy conservation and efficiency. Now, as far as transportation, there's a lot of different options. So there's walking and riding a bike instead of driving a car. If you live close enough to your destination, you should give that a shot. Taking public transportation. Carpooling is always good, and then consolidating trips. So if you know that you're going to be driving down into Newport for something, you might want to combine that with another trip so that you're not taking your car out twice. And then finally, with electrical and electronic devices, there are some other ways that we can improve our energy conservation and efficiency. The first one is buying Energy Star devices and appliances. Now, this is really more for your parents because they're the ones making those decisions right now, but you can advise them that purchasing an Energy Star appliance, like if they need a new refrigerator or they need to get a new dishwasher, it's really great to look at how much energy those things use as one of the qualifications for purchasing it. And that's because in the long run, if you save, $20 a month on your electric bill because you bought a more efficient refrigerator, that can definitely add up. In a year, you will have paid off whatever additional expenses you might have put in on buying that more efficient refrigerator, for example. You can also unplug your appliances whenever possible or use a power strip. So the great thing about a power strip is you turn it off at the power strip with a little flick of a button. You don't need to be reaching around grabbing those plugs all the time. And that still reduces your phantom load. And then interestingly enough, laptop computers are typically more energy efficient than desktops. We always think about laptops as being more expensive, so I don't know, in my mind I always thought that meant that they also used more energy, but they actually are more energy efficient, and so using a laptop does save energy. So, quiz question for you. All of the following are techniques that can be used to reduce energy consumption except, so you're going to look for the one that's false. A, unplugging appliances whenever possible. B, reducing the use of hot water. C, buying Energy Star appliances. D, taking public transportation. Or E, replacing compact fluorescent bulbs with incandescent bulbs. So pause the recording, take a minute, figure out your answer, and remember we're looking for all of the following except. So we're looking for a false answer on here. And the correct answer is E, replacing compact fluorescent bulbs with incandescent bulbs. Now this is a trick they like to do on the AP test. They just flipped the two words around. So if we just changed the location of compact fluorescent and incandescent in the sentence, that would be a true statement. But if you guys remember, compact fluorescents actually use less energy than incandescents. So if we switch to incandescents, we'd really be using more energy. A, B, C, and D are all good things to do to reduce energy consumption. All right, so now on to sustainable design. Now this picture here shows some of the elements of sustainable design as applied to a home, but these can also be applied to office buildings and things like that. So if you notice here, we have a shade tree right in the front of the house, and this in the summer, this tree is going to provide shade and help keep the house cooler. In the winter, the leaves will all have fallen off because it's a deciduous tree, and in the winter, the sun will be able to shine through the branches, and the tree won't be shading the house. So the house will be warmed up by the sun. Now notice there's a skylight in the middle of the roof there. The skylight helps to allow the use of daylighting inside the house rather than relying on artificial lighting. We have high efficiency windows, and we have insulation and sealing of cracks. Those are things that are both designed to keep the air inside the house and keep the outside out. Now having an insulated foundation and basement, that's really important for helping to keep the whole house warm. So cold air, I don't know if you guys have ever noticed, like maybe depending on where you live or what kind of house you have, my floor at home is always cold in the winter because they didn't put any insulation underneath the floor. So we can heat our house up, but cold air is always coming in through the floor. And so we are actually, in a sense, we're wasting energy because we're heating up the cold air that's constantly seeping in, the cold temperature that's coming in through the floor. Now, we don't own our house, so there's nothing we can really do about that. But if you do own your house, you can do things like putting insulation in down there. And then there's also a high efficiency heating and cooling system. Now, we want a heating and cooling system that's going to do the most heating and the most cooling for the least amount of money. And that's what we mean by high efficiency. Least amount of money and least amount of energy. Now, there are some other elements of sustainable design. There's also something called passive solar design, which we'll talk about in the next lecture on solar power. And passive solar design basically means you're capturing as much of the sun's energy as possible to do the heating in your house. We have city planning. This would mean things like designing a city where you can get from place to place using public transportation, or that residences are near the commercial area where people want to go and shop, so people can walk or take a bus rather than having to drive their car everywhere. A lot of the city planning elements go back to, if you want to go back and review, look at chapter 11, we talked about smart growth and urban planning. Same kind of idea there. Another element of sustainable design is installing green roofs. Now, green roofs are roofs that have plants growing on them. And I'll show you a picture about that in a minute. We also have recycled building materials. So maybe they tore down an old house and used the steel from the old building to build a new building. That would be an example of recycling our building materials. And then having efficient design. Efficient design kind of applies to all areas of the building. So making sure that we don't have wasted space, that we're heating or cooling unnecessarily, making the most use of sunlight, making the most use of the wind flow patterns in that area, and then making sure that whatever we put in is going to be doing the best job possible for the least amount of energy. So here's a picture of the California Academy of Sciences, and you can actually see the green roof there on the building. It is covered in grass, and one of the benefits of this, actually there's a couple benefits of a green roof. First of all, the grass on the green roof can absorb rainwater as it falls, so that means that we're reducing the runoff of the building. Secondly, the grass on that roof is doing photosynthesis, and so we're producing oxygen. And then it's also releasing water vapor as it does photosynthesis, or through the process of respiration. So the benefit of that is that it's actually going to keep that area cooler. So as far from a heating and cooling perspective, a green roof helps keep a building cooler, but it's also capturing water and producing oxygen. So these are good, all around good things. Now this building is found in San Francisco, so if you're ever up in that area, check out the California Academy of Sciences. They've got a lot of other great things going on. I don't know if you can see in the picture, they've got solar panels around the edge of their building. They'd use those to help offset the energy needs. And they also have some other cool things inside, some different exhibits and stuff that you can take a look at. All right, so all of the following are elements of sustainable design except A, green roofs to help keep buildings cool and capture rainwater. B, use of daylighting to reduce need for artificial lighting. C, improving heating and cooling efficiency in buildings. D, requiring businesses to provide large parking lots for their customers. Or E, passive solar design. So we're looking for the statement that doesn't fit. All of the following are elements of sustainable design except. Go ahead and pause the recording, choose your correct answer. And the correct answer is D, requiring businesses to provide large parking lots for their customers. Now, sustainable design, we want to move away from parking lots. We want to move towards public transportation and walking and biking. So if we have a requirement that businesses have to have large parking lots to accommodate all of their customers, we're automatically shutting down some businesses because that parking lot space is actually taking up space that could be used to build more businesses. So as long as we don't have a requirement for parking lots or parking spaces, then we can actually help businesses grow in a sustainable way. So that's all we have for today. If you have any questions, ask me in class, and stay tuned for the rest of our lectures in this series from Chapter 13.